Find out how I make $200 a day or more working DoorDash, GrubHub, UberEats, Waitr/Bite Squad, Instacart, and I'll even throw in roadie on this segment of the Gig Geezer. In previous segments of the Gig Geezer, I've shown how I've made $1,400, $1,500 in any given week, primarily working food delivery apps, as I mentioned, like DoorDash, GrubHub, UberEats, Waitr/Bite Squad. Now, I've also shown segments in which I've made at least $6,000 in a month, also working primarily these apps. Now I'm going to show you how to do it at the most basic level, making $200 a day or more, as I have done very consistently since April 2020. And by the way, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I welcome your comments in the section below. As of this filming today, March 15, I have made $200 or more 34 consecutive days, and that's spanning from February 7th through yesterday, March 14. And those days working are days in which I have put in both a first half and second half hustle. And that usually is about 7.5 to 8 hours a day. What I'll also share with you is that none of this is guaranteed. The reason being, it could be a factor of your market, where you work. It could be your work ethic. It could be the strategy that you ultimately implement each day. It could be the time of the year or the time of the month, because the time of the year and the time of the month also affect market conditions. And borrowing something that my old J school instructor Bob Giles used to say, I'm sorry, not all you can make it. Not all you're going to make it doing this. Gig work may not be your thing. So you have to take that in consideration as well. Now, truth be said, I've been averaging $200 a day or more consistently since April 2020, but it wasn't like that. Now, when I first started gig economy work, which dates back to September 2016, I got to a point to where my goal was to just make $100 a day or more, or about $700 to $800 a week. Now, that goal was based primarily on the fact that I was doing primarily ride sharing, Uber and Lyft. And so in my market, if you made $100 in 8 hours, at least when I first started out, I thought if you made $100 in 8 hours when I first started out, that was pretty good. But then I got a lot more knowledgeable about working the market and all. And so my goal was then making $100 or more in about 4 to 5 hours, which became pretty much my standard. Now, also, I did not make my first $1,000 or more in a week doing gig work until actually October 2019. And at that time, I was doing rideshare, Uber and Lyft. I was also doing Amazon Flex and a little bit of DoorDash and the former Postmates at the time. Now, I made $100 or more in a single day for the first time doing primarily just food delivery work in January 2020. And most of that came working DoorDash. And I could make a very good argument. It was probably until January 2020 until I figured things out. And that actually covered, as I once shared with people, it took me several hundred deliveries before I began to figure things out. We're talking well over 200, 300, 400, 500 deliveries before I began to figure things out. Now, the following month, February 2020, I began to top the $1,000 a week barrier on a more consistent basis. And then by then I was working primarily DoorDash and Postmates, along with a little bit of roadie and then some ride sharing. And by the time the pandemic kicked in full blast, where there were the shutdowns in March 2020, roadie and rideshare became almost an afterthought, and I began working primarily DoorDash, Postmates, Instacart. Let's fast forward to 2022. And by the way, if you like the content that I've provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer and in other segments of the Gig Geezer, again, I need your help with subscribers. I need your help with views. I welcome your comments in the section below. Share my content among others. Now, I believe that I can say with great qualification that I can help you make $200 or more consistently working primarily these food delivery apps. Now, what are some of the things that you can do? What are some of the things that I can share with you that can help you get to that point? I've got 10 points that I think that can help you do that. Number one, and I've been a big advocate of this since I started the Gig Geezer channel and before, working multiple apps. Not two, not three. I am an advocate of you working as many apps as you can. Now, currently I'm active on 10 apps. However, I work 6 primarily, as I've already shared. The other apps that I'm active on, Uber, Lyft, Point Pickup, and Ship It. Now, as situations allow, I've also been a big advocate of you stacking orders, not just taking the stacked orders that, say, DoorDash offers you, or UberEats offer you, or GrubHub offers you, or even Waitr/Bite Squad offer you. I'm talking about stacking orders across multiple apps. Now, I say as situations allow, because there are some factors, as I've shared in other segments of the Gig Geezer, that can kind of make that a problem and also pose the big problem of you facing potential deactivation or potential temporary account suspension. Now, another thing is, don't get caught up in your acceptance rates. The reason being, acceptance rates mean nothing. The only thing that matters is you delivering these orders in a timely manner. Because if you deliver the orders in a timely manner, then you don't have to worry about the potential friendly, well-written email that may advise you of a potential contract violation or an actual deactivation or a temporary account suspension. Now, another thing, the reason why I say don't worry about the acceptance rates, yes, there's the incentive of attaining top dasher. And yes, in some markets, it may be necessary to obtain that status. But in a lot of markets, like in my market here in South Carolina, top dasher to me means top thirsty, because you're accepting orders that you probably shouldn't need to accept anyway if you really want to make the money you want to make. Also, with GrubHub, there's the premier status. So you're premier thirsty. But that's just my opinion. Now, again, what matters the most is completing the orders in a timely manner. Because if you don't complete the orders in a timely manner, you're going to trigger the algorithm to send you those friendly, well-written emails. Now, what's another thing? Number 5, follow the money. What do I mean by following the money? What I mean is that you have to work sometimes outside of your comfort area, your comfort zone, your regular zone or market. Now, 4 years ago, and I'll give you an example, when I worked primarily rideshare, I would go as far as driving 90 minutes in either direction to Charleston or Charlotte in order to make the money that I needed to make. And on many occasions, I topped $200 in a single day. So for me, the decision was worth my while. Following the money also means, and I'll give you a few examples. In recent segments of the Gig Geezer, I've shared about how I try to avoid what I call black hole areas within the Columbia metropolitan area. Those areas are where orders send you to the deepest, farthest crevices of a subdivision or development without really a chance of stacking orders or being in a position to get orders. And so you end up going one out. It's a one out trip, and then you'd have to drive all the way back before you're in a position. And that can be very time consuming and wasting of money. Now, in addition to following the money, in addition to stacking orders, what also goes hand in hand with this is you have to know your market geographically. You can't do any of this stuff if you don't know where you're going. And It's been my experience that even if you work in a different sub-region of these markets, it takes a little time to understand, certain nuances of those areas. But knowing your market geographically is invaluable. It is really invaluable. When I worked rideshare, it took me a good 6 weeks to learn Charlotte, and well, not even 6 weeks. It took me a good 3 weeks to learn Charlotte and Charleston in such a way that I could make money rather confidently there. Now, the biggest thing, and I've shared this time and time again, is order selection. Order selection, order selection, order selection. You can't make $200 a day or more accepting those $2.50 orders, $3 orders, $4 orders, $5 orders, $6 orders, $6.50 orders. I'll even go as far as to say $7 orders if that's been your steady diet. You cannot reach those numbers accepting orders like that. Now, here's something that you need to also understand too. The algorithms of these apps understands your order selection tendencies. That is another reason why you see a steady diet of them. Yes, I see a gazillion those orders and all, but at the same time, the algorithm understands my tendencies in such a way that I do see a steady diet of those unicorn type orders, or those orders with hidden tips. I'm talking about significant hidden tips, or even those delivery type orders, the ones where it requires where it requires you taking pictures of your hot cold bag. The algorithm understands these tendencies. You got to understand that these companies, DoorDash, GrubHub, UberEats, Waitr/Bite Squad, Instacart, these companies also will tell you that they're tech companies. And that data, all what we do feeds into this data pool that they use to determine customer buying habits or even driver habits. Another thing, understand what your need is. Now, why do I say that? The greater the need, the greater the desire, and the greater the focus that you're going to have in terms of when you come out here each day to do your hustle. Now, I used to say, when I'm out here driving, I'm out here to make money. And I absolutely mean that. I'm out here to make some money. And so I'm not out here to make friends. I'm not out here I'm not really out here to entertain. My goal really is to inform and educate and possibly entertain. So I have a different focus and a different priority, maybe than others. And that's going to lead to my final point as well. Now, another point, number 9, when things are slow, don't panic. Stick to your process. This is something I've also shared many a times. When things get slow, you get a bit anxious in some cases, and you begin to feel as if maybe I need to accept this order to kind of prime the pump to keep things going. And then what ends up happening is that you accept that order, and then you miss out on another order opportunity that was even better, but you're committed to this order, and now you're mad at yourself. So stick to your process. That's a matter of discipline. Now, the last thing, and this ties everything together, you got to treat your gig work as a business. I've said this time and time again. You are your own business person. You're a 1099. You're an independent contractor. And so you have to treat it that way. Whatever the decisions that you make has to be to your benefit and not to your detriment. And those are the 10 points that I have to share. Hopefully what I've shared with you is of some use and some help. If you like the content that I provided, again, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up. I welcome your comments in the section below and share my content among others. And with that, I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle continue. Thank you for checking out this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you reach this point, it means that you've checked it out in its entirety, and it's very much appreciated, and it tells YouTube that you're very much engaged in my content. Hey, if you'd like to get in contact with me or pass on some other useful information, I can be reached at giggeezer3.5 at gmail.com, or you can check me out on Twitter at GigGeezer.